monsters! Love them. Draw them all day. Today we're going to do actually a very complicated monster using textures. One of the techniques we're going to use is we're going to be going from a very thick line to a thin line, and I'm going to show you some different textures and techniques with those different multi-liners. Our end goal is something like this. Right, so you can go ahead and download the illustration in a very light gray, and let's start playing around. What do you say? So right here is what you're going to be downloading. The first thing I did when I started inking this was I grabbed my medium brush multi-liner and I started filling in the large black areas, like so. What we're going to be doing and why we're going to be doing it is we are going to be pulling the details into the black and show a variance and gradation of line and weight. So what I would do is I came in and I filled in a lot of these black areas first. So broad strokes first is the way I can describe that. If there's anything you can get from this first part, is broad strokes first. So you'll probably see me demonstrate a lot of this right here on this arm, but I'll show you the steps as we go along. So you see right here, these lines are very thick, almost somewhat sloppy, because it's not time for detail yet. Be thinking broad strokes first, no time for detail. And I would fill that in, and I'd get all the large black areas filled in, like so. And I would do that right with my medium brush pen multi-liner. The end result of that would look something like this. That was the first step, to where I add big, thick brush lines and shadows, just block and black all over that thing. Sound good? Next, what I would do is I would grab 0.5. A 0.5, it's still a pretty thick line, and what I would start doing is I would start pulling, again, pulling and thin to thicks. I would start changing the angles like you've learned in previous videos, and I would start adding somewhat thick details, and I would start pulling those lines into the black. And I would start putting a nice outline on this illustration. And again, by starting with the thickest line and working to the thinnest line, I slowly start adding detail as I go along. So with this pen, and changing the variance and changing the pressure, I can get see how I can get very thin lines? I can get very scratchy lines. I can change the angle again and the pressure, and I can get very thick lines. I was able to take the illustration to there. So let me go and ink this just a little bit more with this pen, and then I'm going to change it again, and I'm going to start going into the finer detail with a thinner pen. So you see right here, it seems like a pretty thick pen, but by me going changing the angle and changing the pressure, I pull a nice little scratchy technique. I can actually start creating scales. What if you don't know how to draw scales though? Study them, practice them. Do you know how you could find out how scales look? You could Google it. But I'm just getting semi-thick lines and brush lines. And I'm taking it to there, okay? All with the side. I got a lot of fine lines with the side of this pen. That took practice for me to be able to do that. If you expect to be able to do that the first time you pick up these pens, think again. If you do, I would love to see it, because you're amazing with the pen without any practice. Then I'm going to go down to a 0.2. That's going to allow me to get even finer detail. again, if there's anything I could get you to learn through this video, is you're not going to learn how to draw monsters perfectly. You won't learn how to draw this crocodile monster perfectly. But I want you to play around with thick lines first and slowly add more detail as you pick thinner lines with your multi-liners. And then before you know it, you get detail like this. So broad lines first, detail later.